What's up, everybody? It is Jordan here from Hive Mind Hobbies with another Tyranid Tactics video. This video is talking about the top 5 most versatile Tyranid units we have access to within our codex. Each of these units are going to be phenomenal at activating into a whole slew of different units that your opponents could put on the table across from you, and you should definitely consider putting these units in your army list to be able to take on whatever the meta throws at you. Without further ado, remember, like, comment, subscribe, and let's take a look at number 5. Unit number 5 is the Norn Emissary. I used to kind of sleep on this unit, on this big old monster bug. I used to want to play it because I thought it was a really cool model, and I have an incredibly painted one. But I think it's actually pretty good. First up, it's going to add great primary advantage to your army. So without even thinking about its weapons and how well it does into a multitude of different units and everything, it just really helps your army do the things that your army wants to do. It's going to hold an objective and just stay there the entire game. And odds are your opponent is not really going to want to mess with a Norn Emissary on its nest. That 5 Feel No Pain and its 15 OC. In addition, if you actually look at its profiles, there's 2 main ones when I'm talking about ranged. It's the Melta and the Blast. It's actually pretty good. Like 2d6 blast at strength 6. That's going to kill and get rid of a good amount of chaff units that your opponent might be wanting to throw up at you and move block you or whatever. The Norn Emissary's blast weapon is pretty strong. And then the Melta, it's really good at taking out maybe a Terminator, maybe punching the last wounds at a Rhino or anything like that. In addition, if you're in combat already, you can just shoot the Melta at your feet and then hopefully take care of whatever you're in combat with and then charge again. And that brings me to my last and maybe most important point. Tyranids have a really hard time with units doing anything besides activating in one phase. For instance, a lot of our units are only shooting units. A lot of our units are only fighting units. If you look at other armies like Space Marines and even Eldar to an extent, their units can fight and shoot. Excuse me. The Norn Emissary is one of the only Tyranid units that I think actually excels at melee and at range at the same time, which in my opinion makes it a pretty versatile unit. Unit number 4 is the Zoanthropes and Neurotyrant brick. At the beginning of the edition, the Zoanthropes were the hot stuff. They were very, very good, and they were very, very cheap. I think at the beginning they were like 90 points for 3 or something, so like 180 points for a 6-man. Seemed to be pretty good, and they've gone through a couple of changes. I think they've kind of settled at an appropriate points cost for 100 for 3. I think that's fair, and then you get 200 points for 6, and then of course being able to now attach the Neurotyrant, making them hit on 2s, makes them pretty lethal, and then having a blast profile as well as a last cannon profile to essentially be able to activate into whatever unit that is in front of them, and you're almost always going to be wounding at 4s at the worst, and then most of the time wounding on 3s for most of the units that you're going to be seeing on the table. So it's pretty good. In addition, you can get a 6+ invulnerable save for anything that is within 6 inches of them. You also have that weird Battle Shock mortal wound thing that has never come up with me in my 100s of Tyranid games that I've played, but it's definitely something there to remember. And the Neurotyrant just having an added bonus of a really, really good flamer allows for this brick to just be disgusting in Overwatch, especially if you're an invasion fleet. I think Zoanthropes are pretty strong. I will say, and this is something that I would be interested to see maybe in a rules update or something, if you know, I talked about this in a previous video, if they got +1 strength ranged in Synapse, meaning they would always get it, strength 8 on their blast profile and strength 13 on their last cannons would be just really, really, really good. I'm not sure it would be too broken. I think it would be very good. But who knows? I do think that Zoanthropes can bounce pretty easily, and when they bounce, it's really kind of tough because they also die very, very quick. So you have to be very careful with them. They are very versatile, but sometimes they don't 100% do the job that they've been asked to do. Before we get to number 3, I just wanted to say a huge thank you. Very recently, I've started this channel. It's less than a week old, and there's already over 300 subscribers. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much for the support. If you like Tyranid content, this is your place to find it. We're going to have more Tyranid content coming out each week. And let me know in the comments below, what kind of content do you want me to see? Do you want me to do some more deployment scenarios? Do you want me to do some more unit deep dives? Whatever you think Tyranids could help from, please put it down in the comments below, and I would love to take a look at it. Last but certainly not least, you might already know me from Wednesday Night Warhammer, but if you don't know about Wednesday Night Warhammer, you can check out all my bugs in action about 2 times every single month on Wednesday night. So certainly head over to Wednesday Night Warhammer, and I'll see you there. Bye. Unit number 3 is the Exocrine. There was no way that this unit was not going to make it into this list in any kind of way. It is an incredible gun that activates almost into any target relatively well. It's kind of been the mainstay of the entire army for the entire edition. I think a lot of lists are starting with 2 Exocrines and then kind of going from there. And that's because of multiple different reasons. One, its strength 9, AP 3, 3 damage gun is very, very good. Even though the blast can be kind of swingy sometimes, the bottom line, it's going to buff the rest of your army if you have a shooting army to get that sweet, sweet reroll 1s to hit action that is very, very nice. In addition, it's relatively efficient. At 140 points, I don't think an Exocrine is going to win you the game on its own, but for the cheap bargain of 140 points, I think it's pretty good, and then if you're playing any detachment that carries any kind of buffs at all, thinking about Crusher, Stampede, Invasion Fleet, even Subterranean Assault, it's going to help this Exocrine activate even higher, even better. It's going to kick it up a notch. There have been some people even running them in Subterranean Assault. I do think that Exocrines might be a little redundant in Subterranean Assault because, giving out reroll 1s to hit and a detachment that already has reroll 1s to hit might be a little bit strange, but oftentimes that first Exocrine to fire, not having reroll 1s to hit, could mean that you miss a couple of times that you normally wouldn't have if you already had reroll 1s to hit. So, maybe it just is even better even in Subterranean Assault. What do you get? Number 2 is a personal favorite of mine, Genestealers and the Broodlord. They're just really good, and they kind of do everything, in my opinion. They're fast. They have so many attacks. A 10-man brick of Genestealers, which is definitely my preferred way to run them, it's going to have 40 attacks. That almost all of those attacks are going to hit because they hit on 2s, rerolling 1s. And then the Broodlord is the cherry on top. Dev wounds really allow for them to activate in things that your opponent would not really expect for Genestealers to do well into. With the amount of dice that you throw with the Genestealers, and then you get to reroll 1s to wound if they're on an objective, there's actually a pretty good chance that there's quite a bit of devs going through no matter what you're activating into. Oftentimes they're going to be wounding things on 5s, sometimes on 6s if you're really going into that higher toughness. But again, you're probably going to get around 6 or 7 dev wounds at the bare minimum, regardless of any buffs. And that's just enough to start pushing the damage to a point where your opponent's unit can't really handle it. And then the Broodlord alone is probably going to do, 4, maybe 6 wounds of devs just on his own as well, if you're lucky, with the Twin Linked and the reroll 1s. It's just a very efficient unit that does a really good job. In addition, if you're playing in a army that offers it any kind of buffs at all, like Invasion Fleet, then sustain or lethals, on the chargers, it's just going to help it even more. And it really allows for Genestealers, in my opinion, to be one of the best units in our codex. I've been playing around with the MSU 5-man Genestealers attached or detached from a Broodlord, and I also think that is a pretty good outlet to run them in. You're not expending too many points to commit these Genestealers into maybe just a skirmishing unit or something like that, and it's going to allow for the rest of your army to set up behind them and then push more pressure or do a disgusting counterattack. Genestealers, they're pretty good. The most versatile unit in our codex is without a doubt the new Raveners. I'm specifically talking about the 10-man brick where you have the hyper adapted, attached or not attached to the regular Raveners. New kids on the block, and they're doing some really, really cool stuff. The first thing, they definitely define versatility by having the option of having two 5-man units or one big 10-man unit. If you're going against orcs who have a bunch of different units and they're just all going to try and get you with different waves, etc., then maybe you want to split the Raveners into two so that you have maybe the hyper adaptives to break the trucks and then the Raveners to eat all of the orcs that are popped out from that. If you're going against knights or anything with a high toughness skew, then you're definitely going to want to combine them together so that you have that 33 attacks that are twin linked and anti-vehicle, anti-monster on 5-ups. They can just activate into anything. And honestly, with Twin Linked built in, like I just said, your opponent is going to be shocked by how easily their units melt from just these Raveners themselves. In addition, the Downy Uppy from the Raveners, allowing them to reposition throughout the entire game, allows for a lot of skilled play and either scoring secondaries or getting to a corner of the board that your opponent was really not expecting you to be in or actually really didn't want you to be in. And the fact that attached they have rapid ingress or heroic intervention for free, means that the Raveners are actually really, really tricky for your opponent to play around. I'm super excited about the Raveners, and I think they are absolutely the #1 most versatile unit in our codex. All right, what do you guys think? What units would you have put where? Do you think there's a unit that I'm missing out on that I should have put in there? Let me know in the comments below. I'd really be interested to see what other people think about our Tyranids and how versatile or how non-versatile our bugs are. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye.